The Brooklyn Nets coming off a victory against the Orlando Magic 124-104 from Tuesday night. We want to talk to our Brooklyn Nets beat reporter for the New York Post, Brian Lewis. Brian, how you doing, man?
All right. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and I want to talk to you about the news we heard this week about Ben Simmons dealing with another back injury, and it's just another injury in a long line of history for Ben Simmons with a bunch of injuries here. And Brian, can you help us set the record straight here? What's the timeline here for Ben Simmons and his recovery from this back injury, and is he going to be out for a while here?
Well, I guess a while is relative, right? I spoke with a back specialist who is at the same facility that Ben got his initial surgery done. And he said a lot of us are asking the wrong question. He said this is not a catastrophic injury. This is not anywhere near as bad as the severe L4 and L5 herniations where he had to get surgery, where it basically ruined an entire season. That's not what this is. He said he would expect, now the Nets have already said that he's out for at least a week. This specialist estimated 1 to 2 weeks before he'd practice, which sounds in line with what the Nets have said. And he might end up practicing, say, 1 or 2 weeks, or 1 or 2 weeks before he's fully rehabbing, and then 1 to 2 weeks before he plays. So, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 2, something like that. Now, his point was not that this is a severe injury, not that this is a long-term injury, just acknowledging the fact that it could be a reoccurring injury. He's not guaranteeing that it is. He's simply saying with this sort of thing, you just don't know. Will they not pop up it might not pop up for 2 years, 3 years. Might not pop up for 6 months. It could pop up in another couple months. That's the difficulty in this particular sort of injuries. You just don't know. And the initial surgery, basically the disc is never going to be what it was. It'll never be 100% right. It's fixed, and his analogy was like patching a tire. Patch could hold, or it might not.
It's interesting with Simmons, obviously. He gets a lot of brunt from fans, dealing with these injuries, and he just hasn't played much basketball for this team, right? It's been 42 games over the past couple of years. He isn't available, and it feels like it's a really frustrating thing to see that. And to your point, it doesn't seem like it's a continuous thing. It's not going to go away. It's something that he could be dealing with the future. How frustrated could this be for the Brooklyn Nets organization to see this again with another back injury for Simmons?
Well, what I would say is this. The first year that they had him, they didn't see him at all. I mean, I'm not implying that he was AWOL or that he wasn't doing his job. I'm saying you didn't see him on the court.
Mm-hmm.
The second year you saw him, and frankly, it was poor. He was clearly physically debilitated. He couldn't play, at least not to his standard. He was ineffective. Now, when they've seen him after the surgery and after the nerves, they take about 1.5 years to regenerate. What you saw on the court, despite picking nits about him not driving to the rim or whatnot, this was a wholly different player. He was effective, and he was incisive, and he changed the way they played offensively. That, I would say, I'd say they're confident in that, and they're buoyed by that, right? Inside the building, they're encouraged by seeing what they look like when he's playing well, now that they finally get a chance to see him playing well, because they haven't seen that yet.
Right.
So as far as this latest thing, it's just something that they're going to have to manage. You're committed to him, so you're going to have to manage it and find a way to shepherd him through this in the best way possible.
Yeah, it's a great point by you. And it will be something that I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be watching to see how soon he can come back from this injury. Because let's face it, the Nets are dealing with a couple injuries. It's not just him, it's Cam Thomas as well. So I also want to talk to you about last night's game. Dinwiddie provides 29 points for them. He's a guy that I got to ask you, are they going to rely on him going forward now with Cam Thomas being out and with Simmons out? How much are they going to rely on Spencer Dinwiddie to really carry this team in scoring?
Well, I mean, when you look at their backcourt, they're clearly going to rely on him. And as Spencer points out, when you look at his advanced statistics, he is as effective a half-court engine as they have. So they don't have a choice not to rely on him a lot. Now, does that mean he's going to give him 29 points and 8 or 9 assists every night? No, of course not. But what I would say is you don't know when Ben's coming back. You don't know when Cam is coming back. Lonnie Walker, who as a veteran minimum has been a steal for them, is dealing with his own issues health-wise. They need Spencer to not only stay healthy, but be a stabilizing force in that backcourt. They don't have a choice.
They really don't. And finally, as they coming off this victory, they got the Miami Heat tomorrow night. You're in Miami, getting ready to cover that game tomorrow. Stacking them up in the East right now, even with the injuries they have. Let's say Thomas comes back, Simmons comes back at full force. How do you see this Nets team, and what are your impressions of them thus far into the 11 games into the season?
Wow. I'm not sure what to make of the East in general, right? It's hard for me to listen. Clearly, when you look at the rosters, Boston and Milwaukee, and to some extent Philadelphia, have separated themselves from the rest, right? We can see that. But what is Indiana? I mean, that team scores, and they don't stop anybody. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't learn to stop people. I'm just saying that's what they are right now. The Heat, I mean, you say the Nets are hurt. The Heat are starting a new lineup every single night. The Knicks seem like two entirely different teams. They have an RJ team. They have a with RJ team and a without RJ team. The Cavs, I mean, they can't be this bad, can they?
I don't know.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It's hard to judge what the Nets are in the East because, one, I don't think the Nets know what their ceiling is.
Okay.
Because they haven't seen a fully healthy roster. I know. I'm dying to see Ben Simmons and Nick Claxton together for a month. And I think they are, because you have to figure out if it works.
Mm-hmm.
How do you play with two non-shooters? Does it work? Because they have decisions to make, right? I don't know that they know what their ceiling is. And there are so many other teams outside of the elite in the East that have big, giant question marks. I'm not sure. What I would say is this. If you had told me that 11 games into the season, you just gave me a list of the players that had been hurt for Brooklyn and the amount of time that they would have missed, I would have thought 4-7.
Right.
And I would have thought that's ambitious because, frankly, I thought they'd be 4-5, maybe 3-6 coming out of their first 9 with health, and they haven't gotten good health. Now, that was also assuming that Ben Simmons was going to look like Ben Simmons of last year. The fact that when he plays, he has looked far better than that, and the fact that Cam Thomas is legitimately a breakthrough player, that changes the calculus. This team now has a much higher ceiling, I think. I think you knew what Mikal Bridges was, and I think you knew what Nick Claxton was. I think those two players, meaning Ben and meaning Cam, have changed the calculus for what this team is. But I'm not sure that the equation is complete.
No, it really isn't. And to your point, when you get those guys back, perhaps you can see finally if they can play continuously and be that continuous same lineup for a whole month. You might get that result and that answer of where they stack up in the East, and you get more data on how the rest of the East teams are looking and how like you said, to your point, the Pacers, are they defending better? Or how are they still scoring? The Miami Heat, are they going to get healthy? But it feels like the Heat, the Nets themselves, though, they're right there in that 6-8, maybe 6-10 range of the East right now. And who knows? I mean, if Cam Thomas comes back and continues to give him 30, 35 points a night, I mean, I think he could boost them even more to that next level, maybe in that 3, 4, 5 range if things go right their way, you know?
Well, I agree. If you had asked me in August, I thought this was a play-in team. If you ask me now, I say with good health, which is never a guarantee, they can be better. But will they get that health? I don't know.
Well, Brian, we appreciate you giving us some time and discussing this Nets season so far and giving us some updates on these injuries, but we're looking forward to you covering them tomorrow night against the Heat and appreciate you as always, man.
All right. Thank you. No worries. Thanks for having me.